De Grote Tech Show wordt mede mogelijk gemaakt door Orange Cyberdefense. Van strategie tot uitvoer, jouw cybersecurity in vertrouwde handen.
Goed dat je luistert naar de Grote Tech Show. Tech verandert onze wereld. Hier hoor je hoe met een extra speciale uitzending op locatie, die ook volledig in het teken staat van Quantumcomputers, met mensen om ons heen. Want we zijn op een speciale gelegenheid. En eerder kon je ons hier al horen praten over investeringen in quantumtechnologie. Maar eigenlijk nog interessanter is, hoe gaat het nou met de technologische ontwikkelingen? Daar willen we ook alles over weten. En we zijn in mijn geval Joe van Burik.
En Ben van den Burg.
En is er ook. En samen praten wij hier nog met andere experts over wat er gebeurt in de wereld van quantum. Net zoals wij elke week ook in onze extra podcast De Week in Tech doornemen. En nu hebben we een echte expert bij ons. Hij richtte namelijk in 2013 al Rigetti Computing op om te focussen op de ontwikkeling van quantum. Haalde daarmee als CEO $500 miljoen aan investeringen op. Een omzet van $13 miljoen, dat dan weer wel. Maar belangrijker, hij ging ermee naar de beurs in 2022. En nu zit hij alweer in het volgende avontuur, Sygaldry geheten, om AI-datacenters voor te bereiden op de komst van quantumcomputers. En hij is ook nog partner bij quantum-investeerder Groud State Ventures. So we're switching to English because we're going to talk about this in English. With us is Chad Rigetti. Thank you for joining us.
Great to be here.
So, talk us through what you've been doing. You've led a publicly traded quantum company, which you founded yourself. Given all the developments in the technology, we have some quite promising quantum companies in the Netherlands, but none are listed. So what's it like to have built... What's it like to have built and brought public a quantum company?
Quantum computing is an incredible industry. It's growing so fast. When I started my first company in 2013, quantum was not an venture investable category yet.
Right.
But we navigated that and ultimately brought the company public in 2022. And look, there's a tremendous ecosystem here in the Netherlands. I'm a partner and helped start this Groud State Ventures, which focuses exclusively on quantum computing, sensing, and communication technology companies started by incredible technical founders all over the world. There's a core part of the portfolio that is here in the Netherlands. But there's tremendous companies, and it does seem like it's just a matter of time until some of them are going to reach the public markets and be publicly listed. So it's very exciting to watch and very exciting to be a part of.
Can you sketch why going public is already be happening for a couple of years with quantum in the US, and it's not happening in the Netherlands just yet? Is there a way to pinpoint this?
Well, I don't think there's anything specific, but America does tend... I mean, it's just the largest capital market. It's the largest ecosystem, all the obvious factors. But in quantum specifically, a relatively early entry into the public markets is the norm. And we were the second, at Rigetti, we were really the second company to go public. We did it via SPAC. But I think there's now 5 or 6 or maybe more. There's a bunch more that are in the pipeline that have announced intention. There's the first quantum IPO last week with Quantinuum, a tremendous company. And so as you know, a lot of the Dutch companies and the European companies are now playing on this global scale. And with that means entering into the capital markets with a similar kind of vision. And I do think it's a matter of time. There's, a French company, Pascal, has announced a plan to go public via SPAC. So you're going to see it. You're going to see it more and more for European companies. And for the same reason that U.S. companies first started to do this, which is look at the public markets rather than growth stage capital. It's the same thing will happen in Europe.
Yeah.
Where the lack of kind of growth capital for a lot of these companies, or growth funds that are geared towards, basing investment decisions based on technical progress.
Yeah, exactly.
And technology de-risking rather than revenue metrics and growth metrics.
And that's normal in Europe. I mean, we think about revenue growth and about the margins, and then now you have to have technology improvements. And that's for a lot of people difficult to measure. So when you're a fund and you have to measure that, how are you going to do that?
Well, what you have to do is understand the technology as an
difficult,
organization.
I had a lecture tonight, and it was really difficult.
You have to build the fund, and this is what we've been doing with Groud State Ventures, and it's why I'm a part of it. You have to build the fund embracing the idea that the way that you assess these companies, you got to assess the founders. Are these people that can build billion-dollar companies that have the ambition, the drive, the vision?
But that's normal. That's also other companies have that.
100%.
Yes.
But you also need, as a fund, the ability to do the deep technical diligence and to understand how that technology story fits into the broad ecosystem of technologies that are being developed within the quantum domain, right? So it's more than just it's more than the math, the spreadsheets, the analysis. It's deep technical understanding. And so at Groud State Ventures, our partnership and our group is PhD heavy, right? So, and we're scientists and technologists by nature.
Yeah, but that's the interesting part. I mean, we've been talking about quantum computers on our show for quite some time now.
10 years and more.
Every now and then someone comes along, shares an innovation, talks about the roadmap, which is still very much unclear, I keep hearing. But then I heard you say tonight, there's a clear path to exit. Can you make that a bit more specific? Where are we headed with quantum and when's it really going to hit us all?
Well, absolutely. There's multiple different companies that have entered the public markets and that have performed very well. My first company is one of those.
Right.
But now there's multiple different hardware modalities that are being pursued for quantum computing. There's multiple different domains of quantum technology, from computing and then communication and quantum networking, as well as quantum sensing. Basically allows you to see things that are otherwise invisible. Mm-hmm. And all these technologies are going to have an enormous impact on society and on the economy over the next few decades. And for the path has been established, and public markets investors are aware of quantum technologies. The investment banks are aware and know how to bank these deals and how to interpret and communicate around the technology. So there is a path, and it is possible to do this. And this is, in my view, it's a lot like the biotech industry. So in biotech, you've had a lot of the venture capital in biotech is biotech specific.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So there's the large generalist funds that will also do biotech deals, but then there's dedicated biotech funds. And you'll have multiple different funds from the same firm or same manager that are just focused on that one domain.
Yeah.
And my thesis has been that capital markets in quantum are going to evolve in a very similar way. The reason that forces that is because of the deep technical rigor that's needed to do the diligence and to be able to back and support these companies.
Yes. But can you put a year on when we're really going to see quantum hitting practical application in that sense? Or is that too easy to phrase and too hard to answer? Yeah,
a lot of the big companies have roadmaps that have us reaching kind of quantum utility or quantum advantage the last part of this decade and the first few years in the next decade. Right. So you're looking at 2029, 2030, maybe up to 2033.
Right.
It's now well within a venture capital funding cycle.
Right.
And it's building on established momentum and progress that is impossible to argue across all these different domains of quantum hardware, quantum technology, algorithms.
Because you're seeing hitting it the full stack.
Yeah, I mean, there's an evolution of technology. It's a full stack that's being rebuilt, all the way from the manufacturing technology, the fabs. Right. You're seeing companies like top global manufacturing companies like Global Foundries, for example, get heavily involved in quantum manufacturing, quantum chip manufacturing, as a way of driving growth for their business.
Yes, can you give an example of a technology advancement for the last year, for example, that was really striking everyone in your world?
Yeah, for sure. Last year, Google had a wonderful announcement with this Willow chip. Yep. There's been multiple different announcements by companies running quantum error correction on their hardware, which is a way of using basically more and more qubits or larger hardware to drive down the errors logically. So using error correcting codes that all classical computers use as well. Mm-hmm. But the quantum version of this is a big milestone and step forward for the hardware, having proven that out. So there's tremendous progress being made at an accelerating pace across.
Yes, how important is a hype around it to get investments because AI is hype. So hype will help you. So how important is it?
Hype is a thing. It helps and it hurts. I think what we need is a growing body of well-informed, for the ecosystem to grow and thrive. Whether it's in the Netherlands, in Europe, in the United States, in Canada, you need intelligent capital that can flow into the right companies that warrant backing. You need really top talent that wants to go work in quantum hardware, software application companies. You need all the ingredients. Then you need the fund managers to be able to deploy capital intelligently, all that stuff. And you know what? All that is there, and it's all being built, and it's all growing at a really, really exciting pace. So, big part of the story that we saw today was that quantum is at a place where AI probably was 10 years ago,
right?
In terms of the ramp up of the number of billion-dollar exits, the number of the companies, the revenue numbers, things like this. And so you're seeing, the AI supercycle play out. And quantum is on the heels of that, and it's coming. And the intersection of those two is going to be very, very fast.
Yeah, but then sure, AI had the ChatGPT iPhone moment at some point.
We need a moment.
What kind of moment does
we need a moment.
quantum need to have a similar path as AI? As if you just
of course you want it, and it would be very fun to talk about.
Well, there we go.
I'm hoping it doesn't come.
Oh, really? Why?
And, well, not in the near term, because I think that... at some point, someone's going to take the cork off, the cork out of the bottle, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to happen. But it's going to be a broad. This industry.
It's still the foundation.
You're laying the foundation, and in fact,
need some time.
It needs time, and it's a little bit like an iceberg, and we only see the tip of it, but it's forming underneath the surface, if you will, and it's growing and growing and growing, and so. At some point, there will be this ChatGPT moment, but I don't think it's going to be as consumer-centric as the ChatGPT moment was. It's going to be more a technical breakthrough, a demonstration of an algorithm that has enormous commercial impact on real hardware. And it will take a few years for that to then drive this flurry of engagement, because it's not going to be a consumer-facing technology at that moment.
Yeah.
But that's why I say I hope it doesn't come, because if it does come, it might be a false signal.
Yeah.
Quantum is a fundamental information storing and processing and communicating technology. And you know what? These information technologies drive the shape of human societies.
Yeah.
And it's going to change the world.
So what are you going to do with AI factories in quantum computing?
I think this is the moment to talk about your current company, Sygaldry. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Sygaldry, that's right.
Yeah.
So
what problem are you solving with Sygaldry?
At Sygaldry, we're building quantum-accelerated AI hardware.
Right.
So the challenge with AI today is that it is, it's very useful. It's already incredibly powerful. It's incredibly expensive to develop and to access and use. And it is also not fundamentally secure, safe, and trustworthy and aligned. And quantum information and quantum computing can play a role in addressing that. So at Sygaldry, what we're building is quantum computer systems and infrastructure that integrates and ties in with classical GPU or XPU pods. These units, the pod has basically become the unit of compute in the AI data center.
Yeah, everything that we're seeing deployed right now in the AI factories all over the world.
But what is the role of quantum then?
Quantum acts as an accelerator for the AI-specific workloads and handles a specific part of the workflow. So we're building quantum hardware in a way that is akin to how NVIDIA, when NVIDIA got started building graphics chips, the original graphics processing unit. In the 1990s, I'm sure you remember, I do, when computer systems started to ship with a graphics card in addition to a CPU.
We know all about it.
Yeah, and so, but the graphics card was an accelerator. It offloaded one specific task from the CPU and allowed the CPU to function at a higher overall level for the core tasks that weren't offloaded. We're doing the same thing for AI, but now with a quantum accelerator that addresses specific challenges in the workflow.
Yeah.
And our vision with Sygaldry is to use quantum information technologies that allow things like, fundamentally secure communication and more efficient data movement to address some of the core challenges with AI, like energy efficiency, to bring down the power intensivity of training and deploying these models. I know if you're in the United States right now, people are complaining because their power bills are going up. Whether or not you're using AI.
So are you genuinely able to solve that situation? Because it seems to be a bit of a stalemate, whereas this is an innovation that can definitely address the situation. But is that going to be welcomed by the powers that be, if you will?
If you look at a rigorous analysis of what quantum can enable in the AI data center, we believe we are in a position to be able to bend the curve of power usage versus intelligence delivered. And that is going to take a few years to demonstrate and develop. But to me, the largest market for computer infrastructure in the world right now, there's going to be $3 trillion spent over the next 5 years between now and the end of the decade on the global AI data center build-out. And quantum can play a role in making the available power capacity much more efficient at converting those megawatts into intelligence. And it can play a role in making the data center overall much more efficient and secure. And that's what we intend to do.
So, and what is the opinion of Jensen Huang about your initiative? So about your company?
Yeah, because not too long ago he was a bit dismissive of quantum, and then suddenly he was positive about it.
Yeah, it sounds like it sounds like he had a nice conversation with some of the brilliant people that work for him, and he, like a great leader, listened to the great people that work for him, and he went on record to say that he basically updated his opinion, based on this. And so you've seen NVIDIA lean in hard.
Right.
But their market is still, I mean, they sell GPUs because
they probably
GPUs
don't have an incentive big enough to switch gears already.
That's one way to look at it, although they are, and they're really leaning in. I think for right now, if you're NVIDIA, quantum is something you're engaging in strategically. You want to make sure that NVIDIA GPUs are part of the fabric of the compute fabric that is being built in the vision of the quantum hardware companies that are coming. But as quantum starts to address computational bottlenecks, it's not obvious that you end up having less demand for classical computing, because once those bottlenecks are addressed, you know what? You can address the new bottleneck with classical computing.
Right.
And so it might be that addressing some bottlenecks with quantum actually increases and accelerates the growth of demand for classical computing. And it's not necessarily the case that you're going to atrophy the market for classical computing, right?
Yeah. So the solution is going to create a whole new ballgame of issues.
It is. It's going to create a whole new range of opportunities, and it's going to grow the overall market for computing.
Yeah. Chad, I have another question. You like a lot science fiction. You think a lot about the future. Is science fiction, is that a guidebook where we will go, or is it just fiction?
Well, it's absolutely a guide to what is imaginable and what is possible. And I think at this moment in kind of technology development, there's a lot of attention being paid and informally, a lot of discussion about science fiction.
We have to go to Mars.
Absolutely, we have to go to Mars, but it's going to be a robot colony, which is not what people would have said, 50 years ago.
That's a new take for me, but I like it.
Well, I mean, it's a great application of robotics, right? You want them to go there and establish a colony and make it safe for humanity later. And it's probably going to, neither's going to be easy, but sending a colony of robots to pave the way is probably a much better idea. And so absolutely, science fiction plays a role in how people think, and it's also just so fun. It's so fun to use science fiction as a medium to think about and envision what is possible. The name of my company comes from an incredible book by an American author named Patrick Rothfuss called "The Name of the Wind," and then the sequel, and the next book that we're still waiting for, and we hope that we get to read very soon.
It sounds to me though like the AI craze, if I can call it like that. I mean, I heard 90% of all investment goes into AI these days. That is definitely accelerating the inflection point for quantum then, or am I mistaken?
It is. I'd like to see more of that flowing into other areas. I think AI is obviously such an enormous growth area. And just if you look objectively at the revenue numbers being put up by the frontier labs, you've never seen anything like this. That level of growth at that scale is something that is really unheard of. And so I think the investment in AI is good, but I think there's a different perspective on this, which is, look, we don't want to be, littering the earth with yesterday's data centers. We want to build the compute fabric of the future, and the compute fabric that actually enables the kinds of AI capabilities and features that you want, and that includes fundamental, trustworthy security and alignment. And that is something that I don't think we're there yet. And these models ultimately represent the strengths and weaknesses and the capabilities of the computer fabric that they're based on. And ultimately, bringing quantum into that enables an entire new, rich set of features that can be leveraged. Yeah.
So one other thing I'd like to pick your brain on. You're based in San Francisco with Sygaldry, if I'm correct?
The company's headquartered in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and we have an office in San Francisco as well. Yeah. One of my co-founders is in San Francisco and leads our office there.
Right, and it's right across the street from Anthropic, if I'm correct?
Yeah, and the Salesforce Tower in this area. Yeah, that's right.
So what's the atmosphere like over there right now? A lot of things are happening.
Well, it's absolutely the center of the universe for the development of AI. And when you go there, it's impossible to explain, but when you go there and see it and experience it, it's obvious to you. It's just, people are on a different pace, they're on a different wavelength, and different kind of plane of vision, and the rate at which they're executing. The density of talent, whether it's at the founder level or just at the, people coming out of college and going there to take these jobs, to be at the absolute frontier of AI development. It's really like nothing I've ever seen before. But it is unlike any other ecosystem in the world. I think AI has led to the kind of re-rise of San Francisco as the global tech capital.
Is it a nice place to live again? Or at least to work? To go to work?
Well, that's a different question.
It depends on who lives there.
Yeah, I suppose.
I think the honest answer is it very much depends on your state of life. Yeah. Where are you at? And I'm a dad. We have 2 kids. We wanted to raise our kids in a very different place than San Francisco.
Right.
And so we live in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And that's where Sygaldry is headquartered. That's where all of our quantum hardware is developed. And that's an amazing place to raise a family. It's an amazing place to be able to build a company.
Yeah.
And having our office in San Francisco gives us that kind of tentacles into the very center of the universe on one hand, but then the quantum is its own thing, and quantum progresses at a rate that isn't dictated by the amount of energy in the atmosphere.
Right.
It's about deep, hard engineering work to bring this technology to market.
Yeah.
And so that combination is really fun.
And I've also heard someone say, maybe it was you, that AI is very much based in the US. Quantum's global.
Absolutely.
So how well are we in the Netherlands equipped to benefit from everything happening in quantum now and in the next 10 years?
The interesting thing is that the quantum ecosystem globally is really spread throughout kind of the West, if you will, and then China is its own market.
Right.
And it's talent fragmented, it's capital fragmented, and it's kind of market customer going to be fragmented. So you can largely view it as 2 separate disconnected systems, and they're in dialogue through like published literature, scientific progress and things like that.
Through academia.
But look, there's a lot of tech hubs in quantum. There's a lot of startup ecosystems. It's absolutely not completely limited to the Bay Area. That is still, a great place to build a company, but there are real benefits for building elsewhere. The cost of, the cost of living is much lower. Our employees can buy homes when they start their job. That doesn't happen if you're a San Francisco-based company until you exit.
Yeah.
And it's just a very different value proposition. And so quantum is global, and I think that's a really great thing. It's a really good thing that it maintains and stays that way. And new companies are being formed. Putting on my fund hat, we're investing in founders and companies from all over the world: Australia, Europe, the United States, different parts of the United States, different ecosystems. And I think that's a very good thing. It gives investor access. It gives founders and companies and jobs growth. A very rich distribution.
Do you have also an advice to the Dutch government? Yeah, that's important.
Well, I think the original Quantum Delta program that helped kick off a lot of this, the Quantum Delta Netherlands, did a great job of kickstarting things. And but right now, I think the special attribute the Netherlands has is that, being very frank, is that you have incredible founders, incredible technical talent, but owning the Dutch market is not big enough to justify VC investment. So your founders are forced to think globally.
Yep.
And there's other regions in Europe, think of France, think of Germany, where if you just sell to German customers or just sell to French customers, that's a big enough market that you can think of actually building a business around that. And it's a blessing and a curse that, Netherlands is a small country, but you're forced to think globally as a result. And that's actually what leads to good venture outcomes and to really successful founders, is having that big, broad vision. So I think it's a bit of a Goldilocks situation, is why we have so many really good startups here.
Yeah. Well, it's something to keep in mind. And thank you for saying all that, Sygaldry founder and partner at Groud State Ventures, Chad Rigetti. Now we welcome our next speaker, someone who has quite the track record in quantum academia, if you will. I welcome Senior Advisor at Groud State Ventures, Professor Charles Marcus.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Could you talk us about the most interesting in latest developments? Because there have been quite a few over the past 18 months. If you just look at what the big tech companies have presented and said about how they view quantum and some breakthroughs.
Yeah, well, look, I have some thoughts, and for me, the most interesting thing has been this. You remember that the last scene in No Country for Old Men, where
Oh, I didn't see it.
You didn't see it?
No, tell me about it.
Okay, I'll tell you what happened.
Remember the shotgun?
I'll tell you what happened. Roughly, this is, I'm sure people would say that there's many other things that happen in the movie that are more interesting.
But it's important.
The thing that happened in the movie, and the movie dealt with fate. It was a lot about fate. Was, Guy A was chasing Guy B for all of the movie.
Right.
And he was catching up and then not catching up, and then another victim and then catching up and then not catching up.
Oh, I've seen that movie.
And
So it won an Oscar.
That's right.
That movie, yeah.
And then you remember what happened was, and then all of a sudden, a car went through a red light.
Exactly.
And ran him over.
Yes.
And that's what fate is.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think what's been happening in quantum computing lately is
A car.
Well, there's been competing technologies.
Horses.
Different horses and people betting on these different horses. And all of a sudden, neutral atoms come like the car from a side street and kind of run over everybody.
Yes.
Right.
And tell us about neutral atoms.
Well, so it's a technology that is a variation on atomic trapped atoms. They're neutral, as the name implies, which means that they're held in place with light. You make an egg crate, a three-dimensional maximum or minimum of light intensity, and what happens is that atoms act like little dielectrics. They like to be in the position of the bright light, and they will stay there. They'll get stuck there. So you can hold them in place. Then, and I don't remember who invented this, there was something where if the atom is in an excited state, then no two atoms can fit in the same egg crate.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can have an effective atom-atom interaction by putting them in an excited state, and they're literally just too big to fit in the egg crate.
Yes.
These highly excited atoms in these so-called Rydberg states are gigantic atoms. You can't put two of them in the same egg crate. So now that effectively makes an atom-atom interaction. Now, people are pretty good
neutrals, yes.
Pretty good at steering laser beams around. And you can hold lots of atoms in these laser beams, hundreds of thousands or maybe more. And you can do computing with them. So the first, I don't know the exact history of this problem. I know that Misha Lukin and Marcus Greiner, my two former colleagues at Harvard University, spun out a company called QEra, and all of a sudden they were doing magic. Now,
because with the neutral atom, you can have a computer like it.
Well, look, you can have a computer with superconductors. You can have a computer with spin qubits. You can have a computer with ion. I mean, they all are the same endpoint. It's just that all of a sudden, like the car coming down the street in the wrong direction, they started working pretty well. It wasn't that they were different in kind. They weren't different in kind. In fact, they were less different than, say, Microsoft's approach to Majorana. That was really out there thinking. Is out there thinking. What made the neutral atoms so, noticeable was that they worked. Now, there's an issue. They're slow. They're not as fast as the superconducting qubits. So if you want to be critical, which I do not, but if you wanted to be critical, you could say, oh, great. They're doing it right, they're doing it well, they're doing it excellently, but they're doing it too slowly. If you wanted to be critical. Mostly what the world reacted to was, holy smokes, that's pretty impressive.
Yes.
Okay, so the thing that has happened in the last couple of years, neutral atom quantum computing works. Now, if you ask me, what's the significance of it? Is it that that's a replacement technology and Google and IBM and all those guys are out of work? No, I don't think so. It may be that that's the definition of too slow. It's too slow to be a replacement technology. However, what it shows us is that you can go many, many steps forward. So, for instance, a new company started by a young postdoc who was with Misha Lukin, who's now a professor at Caltech, called Oratomic is the name of the company. Just put out a paper that said you can break RSA 2048 in a few days, I think, with our machine. Not like asterisk, assuming we get better, on the path that we ourselves have defined for ourselves.
No, we're actually doing it.
They haven't done it, but they've said with our machine you can do this in a few days.
Right.
Okay, so that's amazing. Now, what you might say is that technology. Okay, this is my position. Now,
of course.
Okay, right. This is because I'm here.
Go for it.
My position is whether that ends up carrying the day, or just chopping down the tall weeds to show that it can be done. But then something has to come in 3 orders of magnitude faster, but maybe 10 years later, and clean up because it's faster doing the same thing. The role of the neutral atom machine has still been extremely positive. Namely, these things are doable. Yeah. And so I think that has been a revolution. Whether you think it's the winning horse or not, it shows that these things work, and they work now. And then I think what's going to happen is, my personal view, is that the superconducting qubits are going to have to pick up their game. They're faster. Eventually, they'll be able to do the calculation, probably 2 or 3 orders of magnitude faster. But they're not working as well. Okay, so that's happened.
Yeah,
that has happened, and it's been great.
Right. So I think that the phenomenon you just referred to is, if I'm correct, post-quantum encryption, which is obviously brought up a lot in mostly mainstream media whenever people talk about quantum computing.
Yeah.
Is that because it's a scenario that scares us, or is there a lot of truth in those warnings that that's the reason why we should pay attention more to developments?
No, the first one.
Right.
It's because it's newsworthy, because it's fear-mongering.
Right.
I think it's neither the most likely, nor the most interesting, nor the most generalizable, nor the most natural application of quantum computing.
So what should we be talking about then, rather than fear-mongering?
Oh, you mean rather than that?
Rather than the warning,
Yeah, we talk a lot
pops
about-
up like
Yeah.
every month these days.
Yeah, I think
All the Secret Service
I
keep
think
talking
we should
about
be talking about 2 things. This is not my field. I mean, if you want to get Scott Aronson on here, he can talk for a long time and eloquently and entertainingly, by the way.
You're entertaining
also.
us. Please proceed.
Is the 2 things that we should be talking about in the context of post-quantum apocalypse is how generalizable is Shor's algorithm or elliptic curve busting, etc. That is hunting, continue to hunt for the super species that is Shor's a part of. And I don't think that that's been wholly identified. That is Shor a one-off success story? Is it a cluster of success stories? Is it a small cluster? It appears now that that's the case. It appears now that it's not a one-off, but it's part of a thin skin of problems that lie between unsolvable and unacceleratable by quantum computing, and anybody can do them on any machine. You don't need a quantum computer for it. So those are the 2 boundaries. And then you say, oh, well, then there's this gray region in the middle, and that's what we need a quantum computer for. Yeah, well, if it's a millimeter thick gray region, that's not so good. And so I think that the key question right now is, who are the friends of Shor? What are the algorithms that are in that category of you need a quantum computer to solve? Now, I, again, have my own non-expert, so, all of your expert listeners can laugh their heads off. I don't care. About how to go hunting for those kinds of things. And I'll give you my thoughts,
yes, please,
of an answer, which is, we know that there are problems in which you can turn on quantum mechanics. I'll give you an example. If you hook up Josephson junctions in a big 2-dimensional array of junctions, everybody talks to everybody, everybody's trying to figure out whether they want current flowing through them or no current flowing through them. You can create situations which are very complicated. It's one of those complexity problems where the spectrum looks like the so-called Hofstadter butterfly, and you get fractals and all kinds of things like that. And it's an incredibly complicated classical problem. Even though it's got Josephson in it, even though it's got superconductivity in it, it's still a classical problem. But that Josephson problem has an extra knob. And that extra knob is that you can isolate the junctions from one another, and then they start to have energy associated with the charges on each of the islands. So now the charges and the Josephson business are, in quantum mechanics, non-commuting observables. So it means that all of a sudden it becomes a quantum mechanics problem, not a classical problem. So you have this problem which is complicated, but not quantum computing necessary. It's too easy for a quantum computer. But then you have a knob. And my experimentally motivated hypothesis of a way to find this gray shell, however thick it is,
yes,
is to turn up that knob until you find a problem that a classical computer can't solve. And just you do it that way.
I'm really curious how our listeners, how they will so react. It would be great.
Well, you tell every single one of them to send me an email, that we can have a one-on-one extended conversation afterwards.
We'll ask all of them to send an email to the Grote Tech Show at bnr.nl. We'll forward it to you. And we thank you so much for this mini lecture on the state of quantum computing. Thank you, Professor Charles Marcus, Senior Advisor at Groud State Ventures.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Dit was de Grote Tech Show voor nu. We praten natuurlijk verder over quantumcomputers en alles wat er verder speelt in de wereld van tech in onze podcast. Dus abonneer je vooral in de BNR-app of welke podcast-app je dan ook gebruikt. Tot de volgende, de Grote Tech Show. Tot dan.
De Grote Tech Show wordt mede mogelijk gemaakt door Orange Cyberdefense. Van strategie tot uitvoer, jouw cybersecurity in vertrouwde handen.